So you will understand what a motion in user interface means. So basically, the motion, I mean the motion of the elements in the web interface. So the motion UI basically adds life to the visual elements. Rather than being static, they become dynamic and they react to your action. So this motion UI is getting popularity because it visually communicates the state of the element to the human user. So it responds like, okay, uh, so rather than being static, if it responds to your action, then you feel good about it, that okay, yes, it is responding to you. And it another purpose of incorporating motion in the UI elements is that it extends or retains the user attention. If it's a static website, user attention is very limited, but if it is engaging, it's interacting with you, then you feel like playing with it. So if you are if you know, there's a so there are popular games uh, like say Talking Tom. So whatever you speak into the mobile phone, it speaks that back to you. So that is nothing but it's basically some say motion in the UI, and also it's replaying back. Since it repeats the same thing what you said, you feel like I'm talking to it more and more. That's how it extends and retains the attention of the user. So this the motion UI you achieve using the transition and animation of the UI elements. So overall, the if you have programmed the motion of the UI elements, then it gives the better user experience, and because it's more engaging to the user and it's pleasing, and they spend more time, and they tend to give you business. Yeah. So as I said, using CSS-3 transforms on events, transitions, and there's a keyframe animations. Uh, so using these techniques, you can achieve the motion of the UI elements. Yeah. The next one is the layout with the FlexBox. Layout with FlexBoxes. So just I demonstrated the FlexBoxes. It combines both responsive web design and as well as the FlexBox. So see, until a few years ago, the most of the web designers, not web designers, web programmers, web developers, they were using table tags for getting the nice looking page layout. But that is a very bad option. Nowadays, you should not use table tags for getting the page layout. But later on, the developers started using div tags. But you have to end up doing a lot of nesting of these div tags, one inside the other. So that is also it's it's okay, acceptable, but still it's a bad option because that is the old style of doing the web development. The problem with that multiple levels of nesting of div elements is that when the maintenance will be that will be very poor. In the sense, if you have to maintain that code, you need to spend more time, and if you have to make any changes, you have to spend a lot of time to rearranging the elements. Yeah, a better way of doing the same, getting a nice looking layout is using CSS properties called float, clear. So these are the good options, but the problem with this float and clears is that uh, as long as they work, it's good. But if slight variations, like if you change the mm, one property or you change the window size, then it it may it may be broken. There's a possibility. But using flex boxes and the CSS3 flex properties, so all those things are taken care. So though flexbox has been standardized way back in 2009, so unfortunately there's not many people are aware of flexboxes. Even though it's been 6 years, all the browsers support the flexboxes. Unfortunately, not many people even haven't heard of the word FlexBox, and since they haven't heard of it, they don't use it. Yeah. So let us, so the advantage of FlexBox is that, okay, um, once you have achieved a particular layout of the web page in one browser, it's very likely that you'll have a consistent layout across the browsers, irrespective of what browser you use. Uh, Assuming that, okay, that browser version is after 2009, so then, so it's a very good chance that browser will support the flex boxes. If you are using older versions like IE 5, 6, or 7, then you may not get the flex box support, but at least IE 8 onwards, you have good support for flex boxes. And with flex boxes, you have good much control of the page layout, and there's a good flexibility so that you can play around with the elements. And another thing is, since Flexbox has been, it's recent, and it is the modern way of getting the good page layout. And so if you develop a website now, it's quite likely that it's future proof. So you don't have to worry that later, probably 5 years or 10 years down the line, you may have to uh, change few things on our website, because Flexbox, at least it's going to be there for at least next 10 years. Yeah. Next is the single page applications, which has been a trend nowadays. As I said, one best example which most of us use is the user articles on LinkedIn page. So for getting them, for programming single page applications, you need technologies like Ajax for making asynchronous call to the backend web server. And whenever you have to send the data or receive the data from the backend web server, you need to use what is called JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. This is the string representation of JavaScript objects, so which you send it to the backend server and get the data back from the server. Note that though it says it's JavaScript object notation, so since it's quite popular, uh, after the XML was being used for web services, now people started using JSON for web services implementation, for exchanging the data between client and server, or for that matter, with basically from any other computer. So JSON is very easy to read by the human users, and also easy to process by the machines as well. So not only there's a good support for this JSON format in JavaScript, even other languages like Java and PHP, Python, Perl, other languages also, there's a very good support. Basically, once you have the JSON string, you can convert to object, and from object you can convert back to JSON string. AngularJS is a MVC. Basically, it's a MVC JavaScript framework. MVC stands for Model View Controller. So until now, Model View Controller frameworks were available only on the backend side. The popular frameworks in PHP were Laravel, Cake PHP, and so on. Whereas in the front end side, there is no framework which is following MVC design pattern. So Google has come out with this AngularJS, and they made them in open source, and this being quite popular, and it's quite powerful as well. So this single page application, the term has coined by a person by name Steve N in way back in 2005, almost like 10 years ago. But only recently, I would say last 2-3 years, the single page applications are being developed and deployed. So basically, single page application, nothing but the whole application is there in single page. You never have to move out of the page. So, so only unless you wish to move out of the web, like that website, only then you may have to you'll be going out. Otherwise, the all the related things you can see in the single page by scrolling up or down. So And like one good example of a single page web application is our the Gmail and also Google Drive. So most of the things what you need to do, you do in the single page. In the same page, it opens the different screens. So one good thing about this is that there's no user interruption in the user interaction. Let's say when you navigate from one page to another page, then basically there's a small time gap and user basically is not engaged. Whereas in this case, single page applications give a better user experience. So I was giving example of LinkedIn where the articles written by users. So once the previous user's article ends, the next user's article starts as a continuous stream of web pages. So in single page application, even if there's a multiple pages that's being shown, uh, the page moves from one page to another page very smoothly. You don't have to navigate out of the page. So for achieving this single page applications in web development, there are multiple frameworks available. So that those are quite popular ones in AngularJS, EmberJS, Meteor.js, and React.js. As I said, you need to be familiar with Ajax, JSON, WebSockets, and web storage. Web storage is a HTML5 concept. Basically, rather than using cookies um, on the server side and the client side, you can use the web storage. Yeah, the practical application of this single page applications is, as I said, articles written by the LinkedIn users. And in LinkedIn, you may see that okay, the other users you may know. And when you're scrolling, it'll keep showing all other users as though so that page is that long. The page is never that long. Page is initially what you see is only that much is the page that contains. But once the browser detects that you are scrolling beyond the page, then it immediately fires a Ajax call to the backend web server and requests the next content to be shown. So that comes, it could be in the form of a JSON or XML format, and you take it and dynamically insert that to the bottom of the your web page. So that's how you'll see that that page is very long. So that is possible using that is possible with the Ajax programming, not Ajax programming, JavaScript, and also making Ajax calls. So one problem with this the single page applications is that there's a tighter coupling between front end and back end. So if the back end if you change, there is good chance that okay the front end side might be broken. So you before making a decision to go for a single page applications, you should be aware of this. And also to develop the single page application, the regular web pages can be done by anyone. But to do this, the developers need to be smart in using um, Ajax calls, when to make Ajax call, and how to dynamically insert without uh, having basically the page should look smooth, the transition. So for that, you need to use some smart programming techniques. Note that if a website is developed using single page concept, then it is not very friendly to the web crawlers because web crawlers depends on basically they depend on the unique URLs of the pages. But in this case, the unique URL is only one. So the web crawlers may not discover the multiple pages that are existing on your website. So it makes it difficult for the web crawlers to crawl all the content on your website. So there is some solutions for this. So the multiple web pages which is displayed on a single page uh, is basically you prefix with the fragment URLs. Uh, that's how to some extent the problem is alleviated. Yeah. So yeah, what we talked about until now is mainly the front end side. So let's briefly give an overview of what is the backend web development. Basically, I mean, when you talk about backend web development, you are writing code that that runs on a web server or a web application server. So this is the one which is the place where you host your website. So when you do the backend development, what you're doing is essentially generating HTML page elements dynamically on the fly, depending on the user, depending on the option chosen by the user. And note that only HTML content changes from time to time or depending on the user, but whereas CSS styles and JavaScript generally they remain same, because you will have more or less the consistent look and feel, and also the same behavior of the web page. So therefore, for the CSS and JavaScript code remains same for all the users. Like for example, you do a search on Google page, home page, and I do a search, and your CSS file and JavaScript file will be same as mine. But when you do a search, sorry, after doing a search, your CSS and JavaScript file mine look the same. But the query, sorry, the HTML elements what you see and HTML elements what I see could be different, because when you would have searched for HTML string, I search for CSS string. Therefore, the HTML contents will be different from each user, different for each user. Yeah, server side. There's a few server side web technologies. You do basically programming using any of these programming languages. It could be a procedure language like Java application, which runs on a web application server like Apache Tomcat, or it could be IBM WebSphere. Previously, it was like there's a BA WebLogic as well. Now, and you need to do programming using scripting languages. So there is again two types of languages, like traditional scripting languages like PHP, Perl, and CGI. Whereas there's a modern scripting language like JavaScript, which runs on Node.js and Python. Uh, Python has got a framework, web application framework called Django, and Ruby is also another programming language. Um, a corresponding web application framework is Ruby on Rails. Um, I was saying that okay, Node.js is now is a trendy. The reason is, Node.js, see if you know JavaScript, then you can do backend programming as well as the front-end programming. So you don't have to learn a new language like PHP or Python or Perl. So that way, your productivity improves by not having to learn a new language. This Node.js has got a JavaScript engine which is developed by Google, that's called V8 engine. Over a period of time, Google has really made a lot of performance optimization on V8 JavaScript engine. That's the reason why Node.js has got good performance, and it's got faster response times. And nowadays, if you want a good performance um, of your website, then people are preferring Node.js. Yeah. So, see, until now we talked about the backend front-end web development and backend web development. Ultimately, you do this front-end backend web development to actually to create a website and host it. So let's understand what is a website. Website is nothing but a just basically it's a composed of one or more HTML pages. So generally, a website will have a default page that will be displayed when you hit that domain name. Is like it will be named as index.html or index.php. So you don't have to explicitly mention that. If you don't specify it, it will display one of these. It will serve the web server will serve one of these pages, which will be stored on that web server. So basically, you need a web server to host a website. So web server could be like it's a simple HTTP web server. So which is even depending on the which operating system you are running. So it could be a process by name HTTPD or Apache 2, Nginx, inet manager in case of a internet information server, which is a web server from Microsoft, or it could be you could be running your website on the web application server. So if you write your backend program in Java, then you need this application server, which could be like open source software like Apache Tomcat, or licensed software like WebSpace from IBM. So for basically both for hosting a website or for sending that web page to the a remote user, you need multiple technologies like HTML, which is hypertext markup language, HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, TCP/IP, which is transmission control and internet protocol. These are the protocols which uh, either you need to have at the network layer or at the application level, application layer to to basically the develop and share your website page with the remote user, and ultimately it has to be rendered, which the HTML page has to be rendered by the web browser. Note that you can host a website on any of the operating systems, could be Linux, Windows, or Mac OS. Okay, yeah. So this is a graph which shows what is the percentage growth of the web developers in the job market. So this is the trend. You can see that since 2006, the trend has been growing, and in the last few months, it's really exponential. And therefore, see, if you are a full stack developer, then your marketability in the job market increases tremendously.